Welcome to Better Credit, Better Home, your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood mortgage guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Salas, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Byrd Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Yes, let's do that. So I am by myself today. I hope that doesn't bother you guys, but I'm so glad that you tuned in. Look forward to going over some what I think is really terrific information, particularly if you're a Texan. If you're a Texan, you're going to like this. But Joe is out today. I think he's out of the state, as a matter of fact. I don't know why anybody would leave Texas, particularly after with the information that I've got to give to you today. But again, I want to thank you for being on. I'd love for you to make any comments. Anyway, we really appreciate you. And if you'd like to subscribe, that'd be terrific. You get notice anytime we're going to do another show. So I had the occasion, every year we have to do 8 hours of continuing education. And I had chosen for the last 6 years, instead of doing it online, a lot of people do it online. It's probably less expensive. I personally just don't love doing the online thing for 8 hours. It just drives me crazy. But I do like going out to Champion School of Real Estate and listening to their director of the mortgage training group there, Paul St. Amand. Now, I will tell you, it's a combination of obviously the continuing education thing, but probably more important to me is it's a group of people, very loyal people. The people that were in my class 5 or 6 years ago were consistently at the same class. And I don't know how that happens, to be honest with you, but it's an opportunity for some of the real strong mortgage professionals in our industry to get together. And there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of problem solving. There's a lot of just information. It's like a mastermind, if you will. And of course, Paul's the one that brings all that together, promotes the discussion. And I did get an awful lot about it. I mean, I did get a lot out of it and feel very strong. As a matter of fact, the information that I'm going to present today is based on the information that was presented to us. Now, I have cut out about 50 of the slides. I mean, this was a long presentation, but it starts with this. It starts with the COVID-19 recession and the great lockdown and how thousands of businesses were forced to shut down and our whole economy basically just went to HELL. I mean, it was just a dramatic thing. And not only the result of that, but some of the things that we did to make it easier on the public is one of the reasons we're in the situation that we're in today. And it's not a good position. Excuse me. So that's what we're going to go through. And I'm going to flash through this thing quick. I don't want it actually go through this first part. Federal physical response to COVID, the 6 laws that funded pandemic relief programs. This started in March of 2020. It ended up being something like 7.8 billion. The first one. The Family First Corona Response Act, 15.4 billion. And then there was another, ended up being 2.1 trillion in aid. And paycheck protection, everybody should remember getting their paychecks at that time. I mean, I think if maybe more than one or two for $1,200, I mean, it was just coming right out of the government. And of course, the government money is our money. So I'm going to go through this fast. This is not the part that I love, but I do want to kind of set the tone for it, is that 4.6 trillion over the course of 20 and 21 was spent to help not only the pandemic response and the recovery for all the people that, had trouble getting through that period, whether it was job layoffs, the inability to do anything. You couldn't go shopping. You couldn't travel. You had to just hunker down. So this was a trauma. And of course, the result of that is that our government changed their monetary policy. The Federal Reserve cut its target for the federal funds rate by a total of 1.5 percentage points at its meeting on March 3rd, and then again on March 15th, 2020. These cuts lowered the funds rate to a range of 0.025. Now, you have to understand right now we're in the 5. So there's 5 points that they've changed it from that time. On March 15, 2020, Fed announced it would increase its purchases of Treasury securities and mortgage-backed securities, and purchases were undertaken at an unprecedented rate of between 125 billion daily, 75 billion in treasuries, 50 billion in the MBS mortgage-backed securities from March 19th till April 1st of 2020. Now, where we're at right now is the government is selling those same bonds that they were buying at that time. And every time that they buy something or they buy bonds from this market, that lowers rates. That means that there's a market for the bonds, and the government was one of the people that were buying the bond. Now they're selling, and so somewhere in between the 2.5% to 3% rates that we had back in March of 2020 and the 7% and 8% rates that we have now, there's some kind of medium point there where they're not selling and they're not buying. Okay, so that is probably where I think that rates should be, and it could be anywhere from 5 to 6% in that range, which would be a normal marketplace for interest rates. Now, that is my speculation, if you will, but that's what I believe. COVID recession lasted only 2 months. And the reason that was one of the shortest recessions ever was because the dramatic efforts that the government made. I mean, they were in full tilt, all in. So U.S. economy advanced faster than expected. That's Mr. Volcker. That's not Volcker. What's the guy's name? Can't remember it right off the top of my head. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Household personal saving rate at that time, because we weren't doing anything, there wasn't anything to do, was 33.8%. Americans collectively added $4 trillion to their savings account since early 2020 because there wasn't any place to spend your money. All right. So that was kind of an interesting thing. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing. But when we finally came out of the COVID issues and we could actually get back out, they call this revenge spending. U.S. consumers have spent more than $3.3 trillion that they saved up during the pandemic. And they bought homes, they took vacations, they did home repairs, they went to restaurants, they bought cars, they bought appliances, they bought electronics. I mean, all of those things were dramatically, or there was a surge of buying frenzy after this time when we couldn't do anything. I don't know if it was a revenge type thing. It was just people needed that stuff. The most well-known indicator of inflation is the Consumer Price Index, CPI. For the 10 years between 2012 and 2021, the average inflation rate was 1.88%. That's what they're trying to get back to now. Inflation rose significantly in June 21 to 9.1%. Highest since inflation rates was November 1981. Now, if you remember, the Fed response at that time was that it's only transitory, and they didn't do anything about it. Now, this was a big mistake, but that was the response. It's transitory. Well, it wasn't transitory. What caused the inflation? Well, it was high demand, low supply. Remember, there were physical and monetary policies that were being taken place there, but the big one was supply chain crisis. And then we also, on top of that, had the Russia invasion of Ukraine. And then I'm not sure the corporate greed was one, but definitely the supply chain seemed to put a kink in just about everything. And that was one of the things that we're trying to resolve right now, is that a lot of the goods that we needed, particularly during the COVID thing, were supplied come from China. So that was part of the supply chain. Now, that wasn't everything, but that was just an example of what was going on at that time. The fall of pandemic excess savings. Americans are saving far less than normal in 2023. So fast forward 2 or 3 years, the U.S. personal savings rate was hovering around 4.6% in May of 2023. And that's well below the average annual rate of more than 8%, which traces back to 1959. So where people were saving money on average about 8%, it went up to 33%. Now in June of 22, the rate dipped to 2.7%. That's a 15-year low. So this is kind of like the swing, a huge swing of having too much money and nothing to do, to now we want to go out and do things, and we basically spend our savings, and the cost of doing all those things is more expensive than it was. Here's a note. I think this is kind of a good slide too. Personal savings in the U.S., savings quarter of Americans have few, 1 in 10 have, and I'm going to do this. Let's see. There we go. So make sure I can read this. How much, if anything, do you have saved at the moment in all your saving account? And this is percent of U.S. adults. So 12% have zero. If you have less than $1,000, that's 27% of, it says here, Americans. So that's U.S. adults. 27% have less than $1,000. If you have between $1,000 and $9,999, that's 18%. If you have between 10 and 49, excuse me, I got this cough. 10,000, 49,999, 11%. And if you have more than $50,000 or more saved, then you're in the top 11%. Now, this is a representative survey amongst U.S. adults as of May of 2023. And let me tell you, if you go and just the under $10,000, that is 45, 55, 59%, or 57%, I think. That's just too low. So that's something that we've got to resolve, right? That's not a healthy place to be. Federal Reserve's inflation response. Inflation now is public enemy number one. Should have probably been a little earlier. March 16, 2022, the Federal Open Market Committee enacted the first of what would be 11 interest rate increases. The goal to arrest a stubborn inflation wave, the central bank officials spent the better part of a year dismissing as transitory. So the Federal Open Market Committee, these are the ones that said, oh no, it's no big deal. It was a big deal. Interest rate outlook. Well, will the Fed raise interest rates again in 2024? You know, it's open. It's up in the air right now. Fed chief opens door to even higher borrowing costs. And this guy is focused on making sure that we get inflation down. And let me tell you, it seems to have been coming down, even though it's hard to see that evidence. There are things that are listed in some of the government stats, but to be honest with you, I'm not seeing it personally. So I don't know what's going to happen. There are a list of people in here that you're going to see are kind of projecting what interest rates are going to do. So mortgage interest rates, November 2022, the average 30-year mortgage rate topped 7% for the first time in more than 20 years. Mortgage rate soared to more than 7% as the central bank raised its benchmark policy rate in 2022 at the fastest pace in 40 years. So what happened is they raised rates so fast that the market changed dramatically, and a lot of people that were out there looking for houses, at one point in time, they were approved at 4, 5, even 6%. Next thing they know, it's 7 and 8%. Just wasn't fair. It was too fast. This is the chart of the way rates have gone, and obviously you can see in 2021, this area right here, this is when rates were good, and they just kind of skyrocketed back up. And there's nothing that we can see in this recent history that would be anything like this. Mortgage rate predictions for 2024. The Mortgage Bankers Association 30-year fixed mortgage rate will average 5.9% in quarter 4 of 2023. Wrong. rates to slide to 4.9% by Q4 in 2024. Well, they're not right now, and I'm not sure they're going to be right later, but boy, that's sure appealing. Wouldn't 4.9% be a great rate right now? Goldman Sachs says 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate will end 2023 at 6.4%. In 24, Goldman Sachs expects the 30-year fixed rate will be an average of 5.9%. Well, I don't think this is going to be right. Let's see what somebody else has to say. Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae, 30-year fixed rate mortgage will average 6.6% in Q4 of 2023, grind down to an average of 5.9 in quarter of 2024. Expect mortgage rates to average 6.1% in 2024. Now, I've talked before, and you get rates down, sneaking in the fives again, you're going to see an explosion of housing activity. And it will be good, but it will also, there's some things that will go along with it that won't be so good. More mortgage rate predictions for 2023. The National Association of Realtors, 30-year fixed rate mortgages will slide to 6.4% before the end of 2023. And we're running out of time. I hope they're right. And then to 6% in 2024. Morgan Stanley, that's a name you've heard, project that the 30-year fixed mortgage rate will start 2024 at 6%. You know, these guys may all be right, but I just don't see that happening when we're in late October of 2023. It's just not enough time for that to happen. I don't know. Maybe it will. I hope so. Scotsman Guide. Scotsman Guide is a big magazine for mortgage loan originators. Mortgage rate predictions stay the same, 43%, rise 17%, fall 40%. So 83% believes they're either going to fall or stay pretty close to the same. I'm kind of in that boat right now. I don't love it, but that's what I think is going to happen. Existing housing market, total housing inventory. Total housing inventory registered at the end of August was 1.11 million units. That's down 14.1% from 1 year ago. It was 1.3 million. So inventory is a factor. That's one of the reasons that the housing prices aren't going down. There's just not enough of them. Median existing home price reached $407,100 in August. That's up 3.9% from a year ago. Again, the culprit is the lack of inventory. And then this little cartoon I saw in the U.S. economy heading for a recession. I actually hope that there's a recession, because that is what the Fed is trying to do, is to bring about a recession so that everything will kind of tamper down for a while, so that the cost of goods can be built up possibly, and interest rates can go down, and we can get back on a track that's a little closer to what our normal has been. Right now, it's not normal. Government is causing a credit card debt crisis. Now, this is a big one. Total credit card debt topped $1 trillion in the second quarter of 2023 for the first time ever. The average interest rate for all cardholders jumped to more than 21% in August, the highest on record. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is not going to mean anything to a lot of you, but for the people, the 65 or so percent of the people that own homes that have a lot of equity in their homes, this is an opportunity to use some of that equity and to pay off some of that credit card debt. And even though you might be paying 7+% for the money, it's cheaper to spend 7.7% interest that's deductible to pay off 21% if you've got credit card debt in that range. So it's not for everybody, but there's some people that are going to be helped by that, and in some cases reduce their monthly outgo by thousands of dollars by doing this debt consolidation. Now, Dave Ramsey and the lightning bolt may come and strike me down right now, but this will help a lot of people as long as they get rid of their credit cards after they're done with that and keep their debt a little more strategic, I guess is the word I'll use. All right, this is the fun part. Now, let's see. Yeah, I've got some time to go through this. So this is Texas Economic Indicators, which is what this is all about. I love this information. So the economy of Texas, the gross domestic product, Texas has the second largest by GDP in the United States, gross state product of $2.355 trillion. Texas is the ninth largest economy among nations of the world by GDP. We're ahead of Canada, South Korea, Russia, and Australia. So that's something to put your hat on, but that's just the start. Energy. Texas is the top crude oil and natural gas producing state in the nation. 42% of the nation's crude oil production, 27% of the nation's natural gas production. Texas has the most crude oil refineries and the most refining capacity in the nation. 32 petroleum refineries process 5.9 million barrels of crude oil per calendar day, 1/3 of the nation's total refining capacity. Texas generated 28% of all U.S. wind-sourced electricity, leading the nation for the 17th year in a row. Wind power surpassed the state's nuclear generation for the first time since 2014 and exceeded coal-fired generation for the first time in 2020. So why is it I'm telling you this? Because Texas is a great place to be for now and in the future. And it's one, well, you're going to see this. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Port of Houston, first ranked U.S. port and foreign waterborne tonnage, 220.5 million short tons. That seems like a lot. I don't even know what that means. 439 billion in statewide economic value, nearly 20% of Texas GDP, 1.54 million jobs in Texas. It's just the Port of Houston. Healthcare. Texas Medical Center is the largest medical center in the world. MD Anderson Cancer Center, Texas Children's Hospital, TMC Helix Park Campus, annual impact of over 5.4 billion, 23,000 permanent new jobs. It's a lot. Computer technology. Austin area is often nicknamed Silicon Hills because of the concentration of semiconductor design companies. This is a list of them: Advanced Micro, Cirrus Logic, Freescale Semiconductor, Intel, Silicon Labs, and not because they're a silicon company, but Tesla is in Austin also, or Round Rock, I think. Dell Computer headquarters is located in Round Rock. Major offices for Google, Facebook, EA Games, no idea what that is, and Apple are also open in the Austin area. North Dallas, called the Telecom Corridor or the Silicon Prairie for the area's high concentration of information technology companies. TI, Perot Systems, EDS, AT&T, goes on. Cybersecurity and cloud computing. San Antonio, Cyber City, USA, has the most cybersecurity workers outside of the Washington, D.C. area. Rackspace Technology is a cloud computing company serving over 140,000 business customers, including most of the Fortune 100. Aeronautics, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, size by land size, largest airport in the state, second largest airport in the United States, fourth largest in the world. This is all Texas stuff. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, in terms of traffic, busiest in the state, third busiest in the nation, sixth busiest in the world. Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center, Clear Lake. Direct and indirect employment, 52,352 people work there. Contributes more than $4.7 billion to the Texas economy. SpaceX Starbase is the world's first true spaceport located in South Texas. It is home to SpaceX next generation Starship rocket factory and launch pads and is known as the Gateway to Mars. Estimated $900 million in gross economic output for 2023. And this is killing you, isn't it? Agriculture, well, duh. Most farms U.S., both in terms of number and acreage, leads the nation in number of cattle exceeding 13 million head. Texas is king of cotton, leads the nation in cotton production. In 2022, Texas generated about 24.7 billion with a B, in agricultural cash receipts. Texas headquarters of 55 Fortune 500 company, 2 of the 10 largest companies on the Fortune 500, energy company ExxonMobil and drug maker McKesson up in Irving. Employment growth in September leads to more records in Texas. Total number of employed persons reached a new record high, adding 40,000. This is in September. 31 consecutive months of growth. The state's unemployment rate is 4%. Texas employment since July 2022, Lone Star state employment grew by 441,700 positions, again leading the nation in the number of jobs added over the year. Texas leads the nation in sustainable growth, job growth, with more than 2.7 million positions added in the past decade. Texas civilian labor force grew over the month to 15,078,400 in July of this year. Texas population. Texas, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, is now home to 30 million people. Texas population in 2022 was 30,029,572, second only to California, which has 39 million. 2022, the state gained 9 million residents, more than any other state, 3 million more than Florida, the next largest gaining state. This is kind of interesting. 49% of Texas population gain since 2000 resulted from natural increase, more births than deaths. 29% from net domestic migration gains and 22% from net international migration gains. God only knows how many were of the illegal variety. I don't think it was in this numbers because they wouldn't have numbers for that. Here's interesting. State sending the most people to Texas in 2021. California, 111,000 came from California. Then a surprise, Florida, 37,000 from Florida. And Louisiana, 31,000. We're leaving California. I know we see a lot of them. U-Haul Growth Index in 2022. Texas is the #1 growth state for the second consecutive year and the 5th time since 2016. California and Illinois saw the highest demand for outbound U-Haul trucks. California and Illinois saw the highest demand of outbound U-Haul trucks. Wow. Demographic profile of new Texas residents, 55% are between the ages of 25 and 44. 67% have children, 47% rent their homes. You hear that, realtors? 47% rent their homes. They need to buy homes, and they will as soon as we make it so that they can. Texas population, 45% have bachelor's degree or higher. 80% earn more than the median income of current Texans, which is about $63,000. 44% have occupations in business, computer engineering, and healthcare. These are good people. Why Texas? People are moving to Texas for a variety of reasons, including endless job opportunities, cost of living. We have one of the lowest cost of livings in the United States. No state income tax. Now, we do have real estate taxes. And then top-notch higher education. I love this coffee cup. This was Paul's. Only smart people move to Texas. Well, I'm not sure that's 100% true, but listen, that's the end of this presentation. I got it in. I mean, I went really fast. I know I went too fast, but if you have any questions about this, or if you'd like to ask any questions, I would love to give those to you. My phone number, I'll just give it to you real quick. You should have it already, 281-348-9899. You can go to kingwoodmortgageguys.com. That's my website. If you wanted to contact Joe, I don't have Joe's number right at the top of my deal right here, but Joe Salas works for Jane Byrd International, or Jane Byrd Property International. He not only is a trainer of the new realtors there, but he's also one of the best inspection guys out there also. So anyway, if you need to reach him, call me. I'll give you his number, 281-348-9899. And listen, please, if you stayed through this, hopefully it was entertaining for you, or you got good information for it. Love for you to subscribe or make comments, anything like that. And we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same station. Okay? Thanks for attending. Bye-bye.